If you're using headphones, it's going to be very, very obvious. I'm going to start with the effects off. Let's go. So you can hear that it feels much louder, it's much wider, and without the mastering effects, it's still good. It's got a solid mix on it, but that's where mastering comes in. It really fills it out and makes it feel, you know, nice and present, and as well as sort of matches it up with like all the industry standard, like high production tracks. On this one, I only used 4 plugins. It's very simple. For me, when I go to master a track, I like to have all the mixed vocals separate as well as the beat separate. That way I can mess with the leveling a little bit if need be, but the exact same thing can be done if you just have a wave of the whole song. The plugins that I used are the CLA 3A compressor, Vitamin, just a fruity EQ to do some notch filtering, and then the L1 limiter. Now, in this project specifically, I also added 1 EQ to both the beat and the vocals. I needed them to sort of mesh a little bit better. For the beat, I just did a duck here in like the 600 to 700 range. And the reason that I put a little bit of a duck here is so that the vocals have a wee bit more room to breathe. It's gonna be a song-to-song basis. Maybe your duck ends up over here on one song or over here on another. The way I usually figure this out is I just drag this all the way to the bottom while it's playing and move it along until it feels like the vocals cleared up quite a bit. The vocals, I also did like a bit of a hard pass here on the low end so it wasn't conflicting with any of the bass, and I did a little bit of a boost around the 1 to 2K range. Now hopefully when you go to master your stuff, you shouldn't need to do any of this because it's already fully mixed how you want it. I'm just going to disable all of my master effects here. We'll go ahead and add the CLA 3A compressor. Now the gain is usually set very high, so I always turn it down to around 4, and for the peak reduction, this usually never goes anywhere more than 3.5. When you're trying to mess with this, play it in a section with a lot of kicks or like heavy bass. Though you may not hear as much of a difference, you're going to see it in the monitor here how much it's ducking every time it kicks. So I'm going to play this around the verse section and just show you what I'm talking about. So as I turn this up, you can see it slowly starts ducking more and more every time it kicks. Usually I like this dial to kick to around -1 or less. So this just takes down some of the like extra peaks that you don't want, you know, rising way higher than the rest. Then for the gain, just put it around 4. I mean, it doesn't really matter because you're gonna have a limiter that, you know, fills the volume up at the end anyway. Next, we're gonna add Vitamin. This is really helpful if you don't have stems as well. Essentially, you can select certain frequency ranges and then adjust the volume of them as well as the stereo shaping of them. So for example, like the low to mid lows, you want more on the mono side so that they're not like sounding all distorted and wide. But for the high end frequencies, you really want them to fill the headphones up. And of course, if you don't have stems for the things that have high frequencies like the melodies or vocals, it's going to be very difficult to try to widen those up. So this allows you to do that. Usually I only mess with these 3 here. So we're just going to drag this up in a bit of like a wave shape, sort of like this. These dials under here are the ones that widen everything up. So we're going to turn these ones up just a little bit. Then what I did on this one, since they're more natural feeling drums, they don't contain like a lot of really harsh, punchy, compressed 808s or kicks. I actually adjusted the width on this master dial here. I turned them up quite a bit because it didn't sound like distorted or problematic in the low end. So now we can see what that sounds like. So you can really hear how just full it got. It got very cinematic and just, you know, way more dreamy and space-like. After that, we're gonna add a fruity EQ. I already have a preset made for notch filtering, but if you want to set this up yourself, just go to this little black dot here, drag down on all the ones in between, just leave the 2 on the outside the same. Then this bottom dial for all the ones in between, turn it all the way down. Now that you have that set up, before you start messing with it, just go here, save preset as, and then save it as notch filtering preset, because you're gonna want to do this a bunch. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna just grab each one of these while the song is playing, drag it along the top like this, and just find frequencies that are really piercing on the ears. So if you're wearing headphones while watching this video, I highly recommend that you just turn your volume down a little bit.
Distrokid, get your music on Spotify and other major platforms. Distrokid lets you upload whenever you decide. It's unlimited. Split royalties with ease. They've even got NFTs. Collect pre-saves with a hyper follow link. Save 7% when you use my link below. So what are you waiting for? It's only $20 a year. Please support me if you can.
As long as you can afford it, okay?
Thanks.
Oh, So you can hear a really, really loud whistle there. We're gonna leave that at that point, and we're gonna drag this and just turn it down some. Then we just repeat that process for these other 4. You don't need to pull these things down too far. I mean, if one frequency is extremely loud, like maybe you bring it around halfway or something, but in most cases, you just need to bring it down like a quarter of the way. You may not really notice a big difference, but if you start enabling and disabling them at a higher volume, you'll probably pick up on it. This is a little bit different than the first one I did, and I might even remaster this just a little bit to take out some more frequencies. After that, we're gonna go ahead and add the L1 limiter. I always leave the ceiling at 0. Some people like to put it around like -1 or 2. And then while it's playing, you just drag this threshold dial down until it hits a point that sounds like a good volume, but it's also not distorting and sounding all broken. For this song, putting it around -1 sounds fine. And using a limiter on the master just assures that you're not clipping over 0. But yeah, that's how I master my songs. Make sure you leave a like if you learned something. Comment down below any other ideas you have for me for this channel, because I'm always trying to help you guys out. Anyways, guys, it's been your boy MMXVII, and I'm out.